The other day, one of my teacher friends posted this on Facebook, and it says, "Stop saying they didn't teach us that in high school. They did, you were just talking." And when I saw this, I couldn't help but laugh because I know without a doubt that they're talking to me. Now, whether or not these are things that were taught to me in high school or they're just things that I learned after I graduated, if I could go back in time, these are all the things that I would tell myself and teach myself so I wouldn't have to learn them the hard way, or I could just get them over with, learn them faster so that I could be so much further ahead in life. So do yourself a favor, learn from the mistakes that I made, and you'll be a lot better off if you do. Welcome back to the channel, guys. I'm Bryce with Sane Sense. Appreciate you being here. We talk about everything from personal finance to real estate investing. And so if that's something that you enjoy and you want to see more videos, please consider subscribing down below. Lesson number 1 is to stop trading time for money. One of my all-time favorite quotes is from Warren Buffett, where he says, "If you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until the day that you die." And I 100% believe that. Time is a completely finite resource, which means if we're trading our time for money, that limits the amount of money that we can earn. Instead, rather than trading time for money, we should focus on providing value. So instead of saying, look, I'm gonna do this project and it's gonna take me 7 hours, I wanna be paid for 7 hours worth of work. Instead of doing that, show them the value or the amount of money that it saves or the benefit that it brings, and then charge for the value that you create. For example, let's say you're a keynote speaker at a big conference, and while you might only be up on stage for an hour to an hour and a half, you're not just going to charge $90 or $60 for your time. Instead, you're going to charge them $20,000, and you're also going to make them pay for your food while you're there and your travel expenses and your hotel night stay. It was when I finally learned this principle that my wealth it started to explode. Out of all the lessons that I'm about to go over today that I've learned, this was probably the most monumental, and all the other ones kind of just piggyback off of it. Lesson number 2 that I learned is that credit is not evil, and I should have started leveraging it much sooner. Because you can apply and get your first credit card at the age of 18, you would think that they would teach more about credit cards in high school, and they probably did yet again, but I just wasn't listening. While I wholeheartedly agree that you should manage the amount of consumer debt that you have, you shouldn't just go out and buy stupid crap, put it all on credit cards. I don't believe that credit in and of itself is inherently evil like so many people assume that it is.
You're done with credit card. I don't have a credit card. You don't have a credit card? I don't have a credit card. You don't have a credit card? I don't have a credit card.
Using debt, I've been able to accelerate my wealth building, exponentially over the last few years. And using debt, I've been able to make more money than I ever could at my 9-to-5 job in the same period of time. Let's say, for example, that we have a $100,000 house. Now, you don't have $100,000 cash, and so what you do is you go to the bank and you get a loan. The bank is going to say, okay, we'll let you buy this house, but we need you to put 20% down, which, again, for easy numbers, will do $20,000 on our $100,000 house. So over the course of 2 or 3 years, while you own this home, you do a lot of renovations on it. You fix up the bathroom, you replace a couple cabinets, you paint the walls, you make it look a lot nicer. And then over that same period of time, the market appreciates 10, 20, 30%, whatever it may be for your specific area. So again, for simple numbers, let's say this house is now worth $200,000 and it's time to sell it. Now, remember, if you go back, we borrowed 4/5 of that money, $80,000, on our $100,000 property. Now that the property is worth $200,000, we don't just get to keep 1/5 of the total value of the property. Instead, you get to keep all of the value of the property minus the original $80,000 or whatever you haven't paid down in principal. So from this house, it's very likely that you would walk away with $130,000 total rather than, just 10 or 20,000 or whatever it may be, because you use leverage. I don't know of any other investment vehicle where you can leverage that much and still receive that much of a benefit from the total value of the asset. That's like going out and buying a stock for 1/5 of the price. Like, you just You can't do that. Lesson number 3 is to quit taking advice from broke people. I think all too often advice is just thrown around here and there, and I don't know that we stop and just think about the advice that's given before we accept it as truth. We just think, okay, well, but they gave us this piece of advice, and we don't stop and think, is the advice they really gave us, is it valuable? Is it worth something? I have a good friend, and I once overheard him taking advice from his dad. Now, on the surface, the advice that his dad was giving him, it seemed pretty sound. It was good general advice. Because I'm such good friends with this family, I know a little bit more than I probably should about their financial standing. And after I thought about it, I kind of asked myself, why should he take advice from his dad when his dad is riddled with debt, has little to no retirement savings, and has almost zero assets to his name? Instead, you should be asking yourself, is the advice that I'm receiving, is it valuable? The person who's giving me this advice, are they living the lifestyle that I want? Find somebody who has 10 times what you want. Do you want to be a millionaire? Then go find a multimillionaire. Do you want to own 5 rental properties? Go find somebody who has 50 rental properties. Don't take advice from broke people. Take advice from people who have already done what you want to do. I know that sounds really simple in theory, but I don't think a lot of us actually truly do that. Lesson number 4 that I've learned is to live well below your means. All right, so this is one that I still struggle with myself, but it's still such a good lesson to know. Always, always, always find ways to cut costs even more than you already are. Never spend anywhere near as much as you can truly afford to spend on something. It's so true that cash is king, especially in the world of real estate. If you go into a real estate deal and you have cash, then 9 times out of 10, you're gonna win that deal. If you don't have cash reserves to bid on certain projects, you're not even gonna be a contender. It wasn't until we started cutting our expenses ruthlessly that we saw our wealth just increase exponentially. Could we afford to buy a nicer house? We probably could. Could we afford to have nicer cars? Yeah, absolutely. Would I be sleeping at night? Probably not. And I really like my sleep. I mean, after a while, it kind of becomes like a game to see how much you can cut costs. I mean, yes, you could afford a $500 a month car payment, but see if you can get by on a car that's only $200 a month. Are you paying $150 a month for your cell phone bill? See if you can cut costs somewhere and only spend $40 a month. After a while, it truly becomes addicting, and like I said, it's like a game to us now to see how much we can save. And even more so, once you quit caring what other people think, then you can start saving even more. The last thing that I wish I had learned sooner, and lesson number 5, is to leverage your existing skills and talents. For far too long, I was looking for all of these ways just to get rich quick. I was looking for the next thing that would just make me that quick buck. I mean, one day I was starting a Shopify store, and the next day I'd be trading stock options. After 2 weeks or so, I would try one thing and I'd just get fed up. I was like, I'm not a millionaire yet, so obviously this isn't working, move on to the next thing. I'd get burnt out so fast because 1, I wasn't enjoying what I was doing, and 2, I wasn't seeing any progress right off the bat. It wasn't until I learned to leverage my existing skill set and my existing interests that my businesses really started to take off. When times got tough, when things got rough, it wasn't so hard to keep continuing pushing through because they were just general interests that I had that I would have been trying to hone and look into anyway. So for example, I've always loved technology and computers. And when I started building websites for people, it wasn't a difficult thing for me because I already had the skill set. I knew the programming languages. I knew how to do it, and it was fairly easy for me. Or when it comes to this YouTube channel, for example, I enjoy photography and videography. And so the fact that I can leverage those existing interests, it makes it so much easier to keep pushing through. Whatever it is that you like to do, figure out what you're good at, figure out what your talents are, and then use that to build a business around it. And I promise you that you'll get going much faster than if you were trying to trade random stock options like I was. These are my top 5 lessons that I feel like I've learned with money, and if I had just learned them sooner, I feel like it'd be so much farther ahead in my entrepreneurial journey and with all these other businesses and things that I'm trying to create. So if you can use any of these, great. If not, don't worry about it, but figure out your own list and see what you've learned and comment down below so that we can see what you've learned and share with other people. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Appreciate you being here. We'll see you next week.